Everybody fears nuclear technology, especially nuclear weaponry, doomsday devices that can destroy our world several times over. But nuclear energy, that is what I believe everybody should not fear, and in fact, we should all use more. Now, first, let me enlighten you on how they actually work. Nuclear power plants work by organizing uranium rods in patterns so that they excite each other, generating heat, which boils water into steam, which will turn turbines, which will then generate electricity. And how they cool these nuclear rods down is by inserting these cooling rods made of materials that can absorb the radiation and stop the rods from exciting each other. It's essentially just boiling water. Now, you may also be thinking of all the disasters that have been caused by nuclear reactors, such as Fukushima, 3 Mile Island, and Chernobyl. Well, with 3 Mile Island, it wasn't even that much of a meltdown or disaster. It was just a simple leak. The why it got so figuratively blown up in the media was that it just the people on site just did terrible job at telling the news what actually happened. Nobody knew what was going on, so they just figuratively blew it out of proportion it actually was. With Fukushima, it was caused by natural disasters such as tsunamis and earthquakes that damaged the reactors. In Chernobyl, oh yes, quite a few people died. What happened was that the tips of the cooling rods were made out of graphite that can further excite the reaction between the fuel rods. And what happened, they were doing a test that night and put the reactor through extreme conditions. When they tried to turn it off, the graphite excited it even further, causing it to blow up, which is simply a design flaw that could be redesigned to make better. And second, that reactor was ran by a terrible and stupid country, I'd say. At that time, the Ukraine was ruled by the USSR, a country that believed that everything had to be perfect, or everything is perfect. There was no flaw whatsoever. Any flaw was hid under the rug and not to be fixed. And eventually, those flaws would bite them. So, explain to you what actually happened in those disasters. Oh shit, I forgot. Also, not a lot of people died at Chernobyl. Only like 69 to 247 actually died. Well, yes, that's a lot. It's not as much as people think. Now, how much safer are they actually? Well, let's compare them to fossil fuels. Since 1987, nuclear reactors have prevented over 64 gigatons of air pollution from contaminating our airs, and 5 million people every year die from air pollution, and overall 81 million have died since we have started using fossil fuels. While nuclear power plants, the safety procedures have gone much better and designed to be much safer, and even all that air and stuff that's coming out of those big nuclear towers you see, it's just steam, nothing else. If it's working fine, nothing bad happens. In fact, there are 2 kinds of nuclear reactors. One, fission and fusion. With fission, they split apart atoms to generate the heat, while with fusion, they combine atoms together to generate the heat. And with fusion reactors, they can't even melt down. So the worry of a nuclear reactor eventually melting down will just not happen with fusion reactors, making them extremely safe. But what about nuclear waste, you may be asking? Well, first of all, it's not the green goo you think it is. It's actually other contaminated stuff like paper, clothes, metal and stuff like that are grinded down into dust and then melted into glass and ceramics. Those glass and ceramics are then put into nuclear caskets. These big safes that are made out of concrete and steel, built to be so tough, even if they are hit by trains, they'd be completely fine. And they're so safe and so tight, you can even hug them and kiss them and be perfectly fine. Fine. In fact, if you're even also worried about where to put it, you just store it at the nuclear power plant. It's fine just staying there. Or we can even bury them deep underground. So deep it's below groundwater that even if they were to break, the radiation is so far down it would never touch us. There's nothing else you'd have to worry about all that waste. But the biggest reason why we should use them is not just how safe they truly are, it's how much worse the other alternative is. Fossil fuels. Here's an example. For every terawatt hour, how many terawatts of energy is made every hour, nuclear has only killed 90 people per terawatt hour. Wind, 150. Solar, 440. Coal, 100,000 people would die every terawatt hour of coal being used. Nuclear energy has incredibly high energy density, 1,000,000 times greater than fossil fuels, so it'll just last us even longer and could generate so much more energy than fossil fuels ever could. 8,700,000 people died in 2018 from air pollution. 1 in 5 deaths can be attributed to air pollution. And not to mention all the climate change that fossil fuels create. I'm saying we should use nuclear energy because of how terrible fossil fuels is. People should shed the fear they have for nuclear energy and realize that it's not the sleeping dragon that it is, and learn to wake up this phoenix that it actually is.